If you follow these segments or the adjacent articles, you know that over the years I've talked extensively about inflation as measured by the Consumer Price Index, or CPI. For years we had low and steady inflation, so there wasn't much to talk about. But as soon as prices began to increase during and after the pandemic, I took a closer look. The latest CPI report shows that consumer prices rose 0.5% in January, bringing the year-over-year inflation rate to 3% as shown on the chart. Transportation services, shelter costs, medical services, and food drove most of the increase. The quote, core CPI, excluding food and energy, rose 3.3%. While the CPI provides a useful benchmark, it doesn't align with what people are feeling day to day, and I increasingly hear that from just about everyone. You've often heard me say, who doesn't consume food and energy? In fact, it's the bottom 90% of U.S. households who use most of their paychecks precisely for food, energy, shelter, and other non-negotiable necessities. I was intrigued when I recently saw an alternative metric created by the Ludwig Institute suggesting that the cost of living for lower-income Americans has risen much faster than the CPI indicates. In 2023, average inflation was reported at 4.1%, but Ludwig's methods found that the true cost of living rose by 9.4%, more than double the CPI measure. This hits hard and is counter to perceptions that wages have, quote, caught up with price increases. The BLS also publishes inflation-adjusted or real wages, and those are purportedly higher by 1% compared to a year ago. While not much, that gives the impression that the average U.S. worker is coming out ahead. But the research by Ludwig Institute shows that in 2023, median purchasing power actually fell by 4.3%. This highlights major disconnects between the majority of Americans, i.e. the bottom 90% who have a median household income of about $85,000 a year, and higher income cohorts who spend less of their total income on necessities. It highlights a need not just to revisit price levels, but also how much of total income goes towards everyday expenditures for the average American family and how much those higher prices impacts them.